So, things like plastic straws have been pretty much in the forefront of items that we didn't know this whole time were environmentally harmful, or as environmentally harmful as typically we would think. So let's talk about the hidden environmental impact of products that we use every day, and let's go beyond the plastic straws. Let's go on the things that are still kind of lurking under the shadows of us not knowing the full extent of their environmental impact, and a lot of companies, keeping it on the down low that their products are having this kind of impact. I'm a biologist with a background in ecology and wildlife biology, so I'm going to try to touch on each of these household items from more of a scientific perspective than maybe some of the other zero waste hacks swaps that you might see on YouTube. So let's get started. Before 2020, I bet we didn't think about toilet paper very much. It was a given that it was going to be there for us. But now it's been in the news a bit, and so it's a great time to look at the sourcing of actually where this toilet paper comes from. So today's video is sponsored by Naturally, and they provide an environmentally friendly alternative to conventional toilet paper. I'm going to talk a bit more about their specific product in a bit. With their support, I'm going to be talking about the environmental impact of toilet paper and alternative options for those of us who can change their lifestyle a bit. So there's a few different avenues to go down when you're examining whether or not a product is eco-friendly or whether or not it's greenwashing, and one of those being the sourcing of where the product comes from. You also want to look at the actual packaging that the product comes in, and then eventually where and how it is disposed of. Toilet paper in North America is typically sourced from wood pulp, which comes from virgin forests in the United States and Canada. Now, forestry in North America is reducing boreal forest and the natural virgin forests we have left at really alarming rates. The Natural Resources Defense Council actually uses the term tree to toilet pipeline, where forests are actually cut down in order to make these toilet paper products that we consume at extremely high rates. The logging of boreal forests is actually releasing carbon into our atmosphere, which contributes to the impacts of climate change. The boreal forest is logged at a rate of 7 NHL hockey rinks a minute, according to the Natural Resources Defense Council. So the United States leads the world in toilet paper use at an estimated 141 rolls per year. And the packaging of toilet paper is, typically in these large plastic rolls that we see in the grocery store. So unfortunately, we can't just stop using the toilet entirely. So what do? So there is some people who just stop toilet paper entirely and they get a bidet set up in their house, which works great for many people. But for those of us who can't install one or might not want to, there is other options. I'm going to talk specifically about bamboo toilet paper. Naturally makes toilet paper that is unbleached in plastic-free packaging. Mine actually came in a cardboard box with paper tape, which is really awesome. And the individual rolls weren't pre-packaged, which I really liked, because even some of the sustainable toilet paper companies pre-package each roll, which I don't think is really necessary. So their products are free from BPA, formaldehyde, fragrance, dyes, inks, and chlorine bleach. Their toilet paper is grown using bamboo that is free of pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizer. The bamboo forests where they source the bamboo from, it actually grows faster than they even harvest it, so it forms a quite sustainable model. And their products are FDA, CE certified, SGS certified 100% bamboo pulp, and FSC certified for sustainable bamboo forest management. You can purchase their products directly in Canada and the United States. I tried it over the last week, and I've actually noticed it's much stronger than regular toilet paper, and it doesn't pill or rip very easily. So check them out if you're interested. I will include a link in the description box below. Next product we're going to talk about is cat litter. So I love my cat, but I was actually shocked when I found out how damaging cat litter can be to the environment. So most cat litter is made from bentonite clay, which is actually a super absorbent material, absorbent material. When I worked closely, when I was working with the environmental impact of pipelines, we actually would use bentonite clay as part of our drilling fluid because it has really unique properties based off of how it is in a solid state and a liquid state. Anyway, that's another tangent, but it's also found in like face masks and some cosmetics. That's not a problem. The problem is where it's sourced from. Like I was talking about before, it's sourced from strip mining. And strip mining is this really environmentally detrimental process that basically just rips off that top layer of earth, and along with that, all of the wildlife habitat that's spent years and decades and centuries building up, especially in more forested areas. It strips all that out and creates this open pit strip mine, basically. So at least in the short and medium term, it completely destroys wildlife habitat. In the long term, it reduces the efficiency of wildlife habitat, because even after that area is remediated, and when it is remediated, you can't just create a new sustainable ecosystem that was there before. It is still changing the state of the wildlife habitat that was there. Industrial activities in these strip mines also open the door for potential spills, contamination of groundwater, and the runoff and contamination of local water bodies. There's all this environmental damage just for something that your cat can poop in, and honestly, that doesn't make sense to me. It's just gonna sit in a landfill till the end of time and never naturally biodegrade. And when the cat poop and litter is in a plastic bag and in a landfill, it will not be able to naturally biodegrade. So you need something that, one, is sustainably sourced and is something that's gonna biodegrade over time. So there are options to kind of have both of those things in play. So you might think, okay, well, what about the silica-based cat litter, which is almost those little granules that you put in there? So silica is, surprise, surprise, sourced from sodium silicate sand, which is also captured most of the time through strip mining. Luckily, we live in 2020. Well, luckily or unluckily, but there are a lot of biodegradable alternatives that all the cat litter scientists, I don't know if that's a job, maybe they should hire me if it is, they've all come up with some options for us. So I personally use a product called Yesterday's News, and it's a recycled cat litter product that's also compostable. So I also kind of like the idea that my cat is like pooping on the news articles about how terrible 2020 and all of our politicians are. So that's just a little bit of an added bonus. Oh, my cat's right here next to me, scratching his little scratching post. He's excited about my cat litter talks. So I also ran across a product called Tofu Kitty. I haven't personally used that one, but there's a bunch of different brands out there for recycled and compostable cat litter. Just make sure you're disposing of it the right way. If your local municipality doesn't allow you to compost cat poo, you might have to take the little turdlets and dispose of them separately, but look into your local municipality to see if they take that sort of compost. Right, next let's talk about detergents. So detergents are, commonly used around the house. I'm sure you have detergent in your house right now. And they typically contain a form of phosphate and nitrogen. And phosphate and nitrogen are basically plant food. They're really tasty nutrients towards plants. And when they are released into natural water courses, they can fuel algae blooms. So algae blooms, you might have learned about this in the ecology class. It's, that classic process. The algae grows out of control in a water body and actually chokes out all of the oxygen in the area. And we call this phenomenon eutrophication. It happens in a lot of agricultural runoff of fertilizers and stuff like that. So it also actually happens when detergent is released into the environment. I actually tried to find some information about whether phosphate and nitrogen are actually filtered out during the water treatment phase. I talked to my coworker who's an ecotoxicologist, and she said that sometimes they can be, but not always. There's some municipalities that have extremely limited to no water filtration systems, and that wastewater is basically dumped right into either the marine or the aquatic environment. Even in the best wastewater treatment sites, there are still less effective treatment methods for these sorts of contaminants, and there are even spills. So it's always good to be aware of what is going into our wastewater, even though you might just wash the stuff off your body or wash your clothes and not really think about the environmental impact you're having. Just because it's out of sight doesn't necessarily mean it should be out of mind. Regardless of where all these chemicals go, if any of you guys are on a zero waste journey or low waste journey, you might see these giant detergent jugs and think like, oh, this is like the hugest piece of plastic waste that I'm recycling or throwing away. And recycling doesn't make waste go away. There's actually a huge recycling issue in many countries where we ship our recycling to other countries for them to handle, but they don't have the facility or the means of recycling it. So we want to reduce wherever possible. If you do have like a zero waste or an organic grocery store near you, they might have like a bulk serving area of laundry detergent, so you can bring your own glass jars and you can get stuff that's phosphate free. That's also a lot of work for a lot of people. There are some options like detergent strips. I haven't tried this, but I think they're called soap nuts. I think that's what they're called. There's some alternatives to conventional detergent that you can give a try. The laundry strips I am still trying out, but so far they're working pretty well. They basically just dissolve in the water and they're in like a little cardboard box. So there's really not any waste associated with that. And yeah, that's much better than those big plastic jugs. So the next common household item, fragrances. So scents in general are starting to become the bane of my product buying existence. I don't know why, but there's scents in everything, like the majority of cosmetics, toiletries, laundry products. And I went to Walmart and I bought trash bags, just a regular trash bag, and it was scented. Why would I need scented trash bags? Besides fragrances causing health issues and migraines and asthma for a lot of people that are sensitive to it, there actually is environmental impacts to our addiction to fragrances. This is kind of the weirdest thing ever, but synthetic musk is actually present in perfumes and it bioaccumulates in the environment and contaminates wastewater, drinking water, soil, and even the air that we breathe. Random sampling of personal care products showed that 80% of them contain this synthetic musk, and that's according to a 2011 study in the Environmental Pollution Journal. So fragrances themselves are often a mix of VOCs, and those mix with other pollutants into our air and just create these compounds that amplify air pollution. And when we wash all of these scented products off of our skin or through the laundry, all these like fragrances and chemicals going into our wastewater, as we were talking about earlier, many wastewater treatment plants cannot actually filter these fragrances out. So they're discharged into the natural environment, and we already talked about it, they bioaccumulate. So now you have these endocrine disrupting chemicals from all these personal care products and fragrances bioaccumulating into the environment, and unfortunately this passes those health impacts down to our fish and wildlife that consume or live and breathe in that water. That's documented in many amphibian species around North America right now, and it's really unfortunate that it's not only affecting us, but it's affecting the animals that are also exposed to these products. So I tell you all of this not to terrify you. After all of this doom and gloom, eco-anxiety is totally real. I experience eco-anxiety. I've made a video about eco-anxiety. The reality is that 100 companies are responsible for 71% of global emissions since 1988. That's according to the Carbon Majors database. It's also important to consider that the most vulnerable people who are already being impacted heavily by climate change and environmental destruction and oil spills are often the same people who can't afford to make these lifestyle switches or shift their routines or buy new products, and they don't always have the resources to fight against polluters. That said, I actually find a lot of power in the low waste, zero waste movement as far as reducing my own personal impact. And, you know, it just, in the face of overwhelming environmental destruction, climate change, I'm so good at being pessimistic. Climate change, wildlife habitat destruction, sometimes just doing what you can just makes you feel like you have a little bit more power in a really overwhelming situation. And it also just helps me live with myself a little bit easier when I know I'm doing the best that I can to reduce my personal impact. Regardless of all that, knowledge is power, and just uncovering like the dirty underbellies of some of these companies it's important in itself. And we can't change everything right now, but doing the best that we can really helps things out. So I'll leave it there. Thank you again for Naturally for sponsoring this video and allowing me to get this information out to all of you guys. Thank you for watching my video, and I will see you next time. Bye.